Hey guys, Pie Guy Rules here, and welcome back to another Square Theory. So, the title is not literal, it's just an abbreviation. I don't mean that any character on SpongeBob has been ruined permanently. All I mean to say is that of all the characters out there, I think Plankton has had the least bad appearances. I mean, you could pretty much run down previous Square Theories I've done to say that characters have been portrayed badly over the years. Mr. Krabs going just way too overboard with the greed thing. SpongeBob becoming way too annoying or too mean or crazy towards Squidward. Patrick becoming too annoying, too much of a jerk, and just too much of a hindrance to everything over the years. Sandy, well, I wouldn't say Sandy has ever really had too many quote-unquote bad appearances, but Sandy's character drastically kind of shifted from pre-movie to post-movie in that she was more about Texas and kicking butt and karate and all of that, and then she transitioned into the science character. Additionally, she hasn't had that many appearances overall in comparison to other characters. Gary, I don't think, has had a drastic change in character, but I don't think he's been used well, and I think post-first movie he's been used a lot more than pre-movie, so just more exposure is the problem with him. And even Squidward can go way too overboard or too far or even be portrayed as a character who is like legitimately, literally depressed in a horrifying way. But Plankton, I'm not going to say Plankton's never had a bad appearance, but in general, I can't really think of any. His worst appearance, I guess I would say, would probably be the SpongeBob movie. And that's only worst just because it seems just a tad out of character for him to go that extreme with everything. Although, of course, it is a movie, so there's understandable reasons why they would want to elevate the drama and elevate the character. But outside of that, Plankton's character has remained pretty consistent over the years. Sure, there are Plankton plots that I think are stupid, and his schemes that have been just not very entertaining to watch, and there have been a handful of episodes that are ScumBob or meh episodes that are focused on Plankton, but I do think that, in general, his character has stayed relatively entertaining to watch all of these years. So I wanted to examine exactly why that is. I think the first thing that's important to bring up in this conversation is the fact that the voice actor for Plankton is a writer on the show and has been since the very beginning. Mr. Lawrence. Although he hasn't written through all of the seasons, there were a few that he's not been credited as a writer, he has been on the team that whole time. And it's also important to remember that even episodes that aren't strictly credited as being written by someone might still have that person's influence on them. When it comes to writing for a TV show, a lot of different writers kind of come together to add ideas to the story that the main writer or writers have put together. And of course, the benefit to this is that when you have the person playing the character also writing for the character, you have someone who thoroughly understands the character a lot better than someone who will just act as the character or someone who just writes for the character. Sometimes actors will feel like something happening to the characters or something the characters are doing doesn't feel right, but if the actors are not part of the writing team, they might feel a little bit uncomfortable throwing out suggestions depending on how the feel of the writer's room and how the staff is handled on the show, how production goes. Some shows might be more accepting to actors throwing in ad-libs or suggestions, some of them might not be as open to it. But again, if you're the guy that is also writing on the show, you're not going to feel uncomfortable telling someone, no, Plankton wouldn't do that, hey, how about we add in this line, how about we do it this way, etc., etc. I think another important aspect to Plankton is that he hasn't been Flanderized. I've talked about Flanderization before, but as a recap, it's basically when a character starts out with a lot more complexity and nuance and has multiple things about them, multiple hobbies, multiple aspects to their character, that slowly gets boiled down to just one or two aspects as the show goes on. Named after Ned Flanders, who started out as just kind of a general goody-goody neighbor, but then turned into the ultra-Christian that he is known as today. The reason this happens is a lot of the time just that audiences like one specific part of the character more than any other, or the writers like one specific part of the character than any other, and also it helps to top yourself year after year as a show goes on. You want to tell bigger and crazier jokes, and the way you do that is by making the characters more extreme in one direction instead of making them complex in multiple directions. And this isn't always necessarily a bad thing when it comes to comedy shows. But the thing about Plankton is that he was kind of flanderized from the start, if you want to say it like that. In that the only thing he really has had on his mind throughout this entire series is getting the formula. You can't exactly simplify him down and boil him down into anything more basic than that. The man has one goal, and almost every episode about him is about achieving that goal, or some variation on it. An important difference between Plankton and the other characters is that Plankton is the villain. He is the bad guy from the start, and in every appearance he's in, he is the antagonist, or at least the villain protagonist. So, in regards to the other characters having bad appearances, a lot of the time it's when these characters do things that are just too awful, too extreme, too mean-spirited, as a lot of people would say. But with Plankton, I'm not saying that you can't make Plankton mean-spirited or too extreme, because there certainly is a line, but that line is a lot further because we know he's the bad guy. We like him, we like to watch him, but at the same time, we're okay with him doing these bad things because we know he's the villain. It's different from Patrick doing bad things because at the end of the day, Patrick is supposed to be SpongeBob's best friend, and that comes off as really harsh when Patrick does something like completely use SpongeBob. But when Plankton uses SpongeBob, we expect it, and we know it's okay because he's the villain, and we always know that because it's a constant throughout the whole series. But ultimately, for whatever the reason, a lot of people definitely agree that Plankton has definitely fared the best in the post-first movie episodes compared to other characters. And while he's not my personal favorite, I'd probably go with Squidward still, he is definitely up there, and I do like him above other characters like Patrick, Sandy, Krabs, or really anyone aside from Squidward or SpongeBob. I think those three are probably my top 3 favorite SpongeBob characters. So what do you think is the reason behind Plankton not having too many bad appearances? Or maybe you think that Plankton has, and if you do, I would really love to hear which episodes you think his character isn't great in. So with that, Pie Guy rules.